Is it possible to retire comfortably with just $250,000? A lot of you watching probably think that's nowhere near enough. But with the right planning, that $250,000 can go a lot further than most Canadians realize. In this video, we'll walk through a case study of a 65-year-old couple with $250,000 and how with some strategic planning, we're able to help them retire comfortably. So here we have John and Andrea YouTube, which you guys have seen for many years now, and they both have $100,000 in their RRSP and $25,000 in their TFSA. So the exact same assets. Again, it might be different for you. You might have 250, it might be all in one person or the other. For this case, we've done 100, 100, 25, 25. So if we go into the planning, this is kind of the default plan, and this is how most Canadians, probably watching this video, would implement your retirement. So you have your RSP, you have your TFSA. Now, because they don't have a lot of savings, they've walked into retirement and they plan to draw down both their CPP and old age security. When I go into the software here, I'll just highlight the Canadian Pension Plan, the CPP, is at 75% of the maximum for both John and Andrea. So they've paid into it, but they haven't maxed it out over time. So that's what they're going to collect based on this scenario. Again, some of you might be a little bit higher, might be a little bit lower. This would be slightly under the average that we see come into our office. So again, I wanted to be conservative with this. I didn't want to say, well, they're gonna have all this government income that won't actually be there. So if we go back, we can see this is Andrea. You can see her CPP, $11,823. Old age security, OAS there of $8,732. She's collecting a little bit out of her RSP or RIF at that point, $3,846. And then complementing it with the TFSA, $3,277. So she has total taxable income of $24,901. She owes only $262 of tax. And so her total base amount that she's bringing into the household for income is $27,917. For John, it's roughly the same amount, almost exactly the same. The only difference is CPP, he has a little bit more. His birthday's earlier in the year. So depending on birthdays, they took it on their 65th birthday. Now, the reality is if we look at how things come together. So again, they're a 65-year-old couple. They have $250,000 saved, $200,000 registered in the RSP, $50,000 in the TFSA. They want to plan out till age 90 for both of them. And you can see the most after-tax money they could collect. So the kind of the maximum spend to end up with $0, they can collect $55,906 per year. So not too bad, and that's real dollars. So the nominal dollar, which is the actual amount they'll have in their pocket, will grow over time. So if I look at age 75 as an example, they're still collecting $55,906 in today's dollars, real dollars. If I look at nominal dollars, they will actually have $71,564 in their pocket for spending. Again, that's equivalent to $55,906 in today's dollars. So that's really important. We've seen a few comments lately around, well, Adam, you're showing like a nominal number, like my money needs to grow. And I want to highlight here, like when we show how much income a client has, it's always in real dollars after tax in their pocket. So that $55,906 is in their pocket for spending every year in today's dollars. But the actual amount they're going to have in their pocket for spending increases every year. As you know, everything around us is increased in expenses, so we want to increase that over time. So their power to spend stays the same over their lifetime. It doesn't decrease because the actual spending power has decreased along with it. So hopefully that makes sense. So real versus nominal. Real is what is it in today's dollars? Nominal is what will I actually have in my pocket in the future for spending? And then you can convert it back to the real, which is what that's worth in today's dollars. Now, what would things look like if John and Andrea wanted a little bit more money? Like it wasn't quite enough. How do we maximize this? Again, they have $250,000. Obviously, we want to maximize every single dollar. Each one of you watching this video, you've worked hard to save up what you've saved up. So what if we delayed CPP till 70 and kind of used their money first, but delayed it, got that 8.4% every single year in delaying it? So if we look at delaying that CPP as well as saying, well, if we don't have any income for the next 5 years out of CPP, can we then replace that with more registered drawdown to keep our taxable income up? So what I've done here is drawn about $22,000 out of each of their RSPs for the next 5 years until their CPP kicks in. So we can see here, $22,000 last year, just shy of that. And then Their RSP is depleted, so they don't have that tax bill if one of them were to pass away, and their Canadian pension plan is much higher, almost double what it was previously. You can see here for John, his CPP will be $20,189 in the first year that he takes it, so quite substantial. On top of that, you can see we're not touching the TFSA as much. We're taking over $3,000 in that first year. Now we're taking just over $100, allowing that TFSA to grow to create more flexibility. Andrea, same thing, drawing down that RSP account here, $22,000, depleted out, taking less out of the TFSA. So a bit better of tax planning around it. Delay CPP, draw down that RSP. But at the end of the day, have we given the client more money? More money in their pocket after tax is spent. That is the key here. Any retirement plan that our office does or that you get from your financial planner should be, how do we maximize your income after tax in your pocket for spending through retirement? Now, you might have other wishes along the way, or you might say, well, I want to leave as much as I can in my estate tax-free for my kids or charity or whatever. Like, everyone's got their own thing. But for 99% of you, you want, for the money I'm collecting, I want to maximize every dollar. I want my dollars to come into my pocket, not CRA. So how do we do that efficiently? So you can see here, by delaying CPP to age 70, and in that 5-year timeline, drawing down the RSP or the RIF account, we've now bumped their real income. This is after tax in their pocket from $55,000 up to $58,359. We've put an extra $2,453 after tax in real dollars in their pocket every single year through retirement. Substantially more money in their pocket for spending. So let's do a quick comparison here. And again, this is a new comparison tool that Snap Projections has for us, and it's phenomenal. It shows a direct comparison. Are we doing better? Are these decisions we're making in implementation actually helping you, the client? And you can see here, so the top retirement spending on the left is the planning, on the right, number one, is no planning. So again, $2,453 difference by not doing planning. Lifetime expenses, that means how much money have you actually collected after tax in your pocket? Well, with the planning, you've collected $63,778 in today's dollars, in nominal dollars, so in actual dollars in your pocket, it works out to $88,333. So again, very substantial there. Going back to real dollars, personal lifetime taxes, and you can see this is going to happen, where we're actually paying more tax by doing the planning. And you might say, well, Adam, isn't the purpose to pay less tax? Yes, absolutely. Anytime you build a plan, we want to pay less tax, but that's the second priority. The first priority is, how do we get you the most money after tax in your pocket? Look, through your lifetime, if you're collecting more after-tax money in your pocket to spend, in this case, $2,500 a year, but you're paying a little bit more tax, it's a net benefit. You're still working out with more money in your pocket. The reason why we're paying a bit more tax here is we're front-end loading it a little bit. And again, oftentimes this isn't the case. When you do an RSP meltdown, delay CPP, I would say more than 60 or 70% of the time, you'll actually spend a lot less tax. So just in this case scenario, and again, this is where everyone's situation is different. So for John and Andrea YouTube here, they're getting $2,500 more in their pocket every single year. They are paying a little bit more tax. But again, that $2,500 is after tax. So I just want to point that out here, because you might say, well, Adam, they're paying more tax. This is terrible. Well, no, they have more money for spending after tax in their pocket. So it's a net benefit. Yes, they're paying a little bit more tax, but that's kind of a side thing. That's, again, number 2 priority at this point. Now, John and Andrea's goal for retirement was always to get around that $5,000 a month after tax in today's dollars for their go-go phase of retirement. Now, obviously, with only $250,000 saved, it makes it a little tight. We started at 55, close to 56, but under $56,000. That's a big difference. But we were able to get to closer to that by delaying CPP, drawing down the RSP, leaving that TFSA intact a little bit better. So what if we laddered it? What could that look like for them? Maybe we can get them to that $60,000 a year after tax and then ladder it down over time. So here you can see we've been able to do that. $60,000 in their go-go phase, so from 75 to age 85. Then we scaled it down to $55,000 and then to $50,000. And guess what? Even by doing that, which met their goals, they had $107,000 left in their estate. Now, again, this might be money they need later on in life. Maybe they want to gift it to kids or charities later on. They can do whatever they want, but it creates more flexibility. So not only were we able to drive up some income in their go-go phase of retirement, but we also created some flexibility for them in the middle later years of retirement as well. If they need a little bit more money, they wanted to spend more than that $55,000 or $50,000, there is some flexibility there. Now, a few of the comments we got on a recent video was, okay, $250,000 is not a lot saved, but hey, this client could still retire. They have $60,000 a year, which is a very nice income in retirement here in Canada. Unless you have a very high lifestyle, a lot of you could live off $5,000. In fact, a lot of you are saying $5,000, like, I'll never have that much in retirement. And again, this is why it's important to put a plan together leading up to retirement. Make sure you have tax efficiency. Like this client, if they just walked into most banks or financial institutions and just had a plan spit out them, they had about $55,000 a year. Well, in reality, not only do they have a lot more at $60,000, but now they have a lot more tax efficiency. They have more structure. That TFSA is holding out for longer. It gives them that flexibility. So there's so many underlying pieces to a retirement plan that make it really good and make it work well for you and create that flexibility for you. But the question a lot of you have, and rightfully so, is, okay, what if we start living this retirement, but then my spouse passes away? And again, we work with a lot of widows. In fact, this morning I had a call with another one that he lost his wife 3 months ago, right? Retirement changes really quick when that happens. So what happens if we start living our retirement, Adam, at $60,000 a year, and 5 years in, my spouse passes away? So here is that scenario. Again, $60,000 coming in. John's passed away at 70. And so what I did is I assumed we were taking out that $60,000. So if we look at John, we're pulling out that $22,000 every year. Again, we've depleted the RSP for both John and Andrea. So completely gone. So all they have left is their TFSA. Of course, when John passes away, there is some survivor benefit. So you can see on Andrea's side here, she's collecting her CPP. There is some survivor benefit there as well. And she's still collecting her old age security. But John's old age security is gone, and much of his CPP is gone. His TFSA rolls into hers, and you can see the bump from $34,000 to $68,000. But at the end of the day, her income will drop substantially. And if we go back to this, you can actually see, so $60,000, the most she could draw out based on all of her income and assets coming in at that point are about $34,821. So about $35,000 a year. So just shy of $3,000 a month. Now, again, a lot of you might say, that's enough for me. And these are some of the stress tests you may want to run with your planner to say, okay, I love this plan. It's a little tight for me, but what happens if my spouse dies? What happens if this? I always say, whatever keeps you up at night, that's what you want to flesh out in your retirement planning process with your planner. Make sure that you're not sitting there saying, okay, I have a great plan, but if this happens, I have no idea what happens after that. Like for John and Andrea, if John passed away, or Andrea, it would have been the same thing, is their income drops from $60,000 to about $35,000 a year. Now again, $35,000 a year, yes, your life would change, things would change. In this case, John and Andrea have a house, maybe Andrea downsizes the house, does whatever. There's some flexibility there. What is the flexibility within your plan? Is there flexibility? How would that work for you? Again, this is something to flesh out and figure out, would a plan like this work for you? So there you have it. The ability to retire with $250,000 saved is very realistic. And again, everyone's situation is going to be different. If this couple was only 60 years old, well, that would change things. You have more years and the same amount of money. Obviously, the income would drop down from there. But again, as you get close to retirement, don't base it on a number. If it's, well, I need $1 million or $500,000 or $250,000, whatever that number is, sit down with your financial planner and figure out what I have or what I will have come retirement. Is that going to be enough? Could I retire earlier? Do I have to continue to work? So again, everyone's situation is different, but a lot of you have a number in your head that isn't realistic. For a lot of you, you don't need that much. And so you might be sitting there close to 65 with $250,000 saying, hey, maybe it's time to retire. Maybe it is. Sit down with your financial planner and have that chat. We'll see you in the next one.